Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. We've all heard the saying before, right? Does it date back to the art of war? Is that the origin of that? I bring that up because I think that's exactly what LeBron has done with Draymond over the years, right? It's been a real finessing act. He and LeBron's relationship, and you're seeing it play out in this matchup against the Lakers. And there are a lot of connections between the two teams. But someone had brought it up in my patron comments like, hey, this is a little too friendly, right? This is a little too nice. And look, there is nothing wrong with having a cordial series and sportsmanship and all that. That's fine. But I simply point that out that it favors the Lakers, right? I think LeBron and the Lakers, if you've noticed, have been killing the Warriors with kindness. You remember that game one interview, post-game AD? He sounded like he was campaigning to play for the Warriors, right? All they've done is compliment the Warrior players and just made it real nice, right? And again, that's fine. But we've seen in the past with the Warriors, despite the optics of them being a jump shooting, quote, soft team, when things get chippy in the playoffs, the Warriors are comfortable playing that way. In fact, they rise to the occasion, and it helps them a lot of the time. Where this Lakers team, look, we know Bron can play in any type of atmosphere, but these other guys, I don't think they want to play that way. We know AD doesn't want to play chippy. I don't think D'Lo does, right? And I think LeBron understands that, and he set the tone in this series of like, hey, this is all love. This is we all boys here. You know, let's just play ball, right? And that again, I think favors the Lakers. Today's sponsor, you already know what time it is. So Rare NBA, the online trading card game, fantasy basketball, NFTs, gift cards, autographed jerseys. I want to thank you all that have joined my league and have been playing with me. And hopefully we can keep it rolling into next season, and I'll get more opportunities to gift y'all stuff if we can grow the league. But let's talk about first place, TS 680. That's a strong lineup there, right? It's the Heat players that got you over the top. Strus and Lowry. Playing a Heat player other than Jimmy Butler is kind of finicky, right? But then second place, Jakobus. How did you get that done with Shake Milton in there? What did he have a big game that I'm missing? And then my guy, Porch Loondog, big time Discord contributor in third place. I was sixth this week, so I'm climbing the boards. I'm having fun with it. That's So Rare NBA. The link is in the description. You can join my league right now. It's not too late. You know, I realized something about myself watching this game last night. All the years of hooping and coaching, I had learned to take this mentality of, I can't worry about the refs. I can't worry about the refs, right? You know this to be true as a ball player, or if you're a member of a coaching staff, or you're involved in a game, right? It really does you no good to worry and dwell about the refereeing. You can argue in the moment and you can plead your cases as you should, right? But ultimately you got to keep it pushing. And I've realized doing what I do now, I still kind of have that mentality, because in real time last night, I found myself more focused and upset with the Warriors' own mistakes, the self-inflicted wounds, the turnovers, the lack of focus. And that usually upsets me so much. Sometimes I tend to dismiss the refereeing. I don't like to talk about it. But I think here we sit after this game, we got to talk about it, right? I went back through the tape this morning. Breakdown is now out on Patreon. It's as bad as it gets, right? It's as bad as it gets. First, you've got the collision with JaMychal Green and Draymond and Anthony Davis, right? They go to check for, because AD is what I call him, Kaya, right? My neck, my back. You know the rest of the story, right? But they go to check the replay, and somehow they pin that on Draymond. When it was JaMychal and AD, they went like elbow to elbow. It's like, okay, cool. Couple minutes later, there's an absolute phantom call on Draymond. Vanderbilt comes in from the baseline. I don't even think he touches him. And you want to know how I know it was such a phantom call, is because young PBJ, Patrick Baldwin Jr., leaps up out of his seat. He's in that corner right where the play takes place. And he's like, what? Right? And to get that type of emotion and response from a kid who is so stoic, you knew it was a phantom call. So that was 2 on Draymond, right? Excuse me, I'm bumping the mic. And then, it just snowballed. All those block charge calls. I thought the first one, fine, it's a block, right? Draymond, he had stabbed at a passing lane, and then AD went the other way, and he was probably a beat late recovering over. Okay, fine, bang, bang call. But as it transpired over and over again, you're like, wait, he isn't going to get the benefit of the doubt on these 50-50 calls at all, right? You got Reeves with the Chris Paul KD rip through. It was bad, man. It was bad. And I understand that there is a butterfly effect with fouls, right? Where one or two bad calls in a sequence of minutes can really disrupt momentum and a rhythm and alter the entire course of the game. And I think a lot of people felt that way in that second quarter of this game, where the Warriors at one point, they had like an 11-point lead, right? I'm not discounting that. At the same time, if we're honest with ourselves, Dub Nation, and you look at some of these errors and mistakes that they made, even if there wasn't terrible refereeing and the game was much closer, I'm not sure we pull it out because of the lack of execution. There, very rarely do we see a game where we have this many guys play that bad. Looney looked like prime O'Donnell Foyle. He couldn't hold on to the ball, right? And I know a lot of people were like, dang, maybe he was sick, right? And maybe he was, but for whatever reason, one of the worst games I've seen from Looney on this stage in the playoffs, right? Clay, 6 turnovers, a bunch of bad, tough, stupid fouls. He was basically responsible for about 10 turnovers, right? Steph was all right. I thought the silver lining was Wiggins. Rebounded well. We're going to need more from him. We'll talk about that in a minute, right? And then Draymond really never had an opportunity to get involved in the game. And none of the role players chipped in. And so I say all that to say, yes, as frustrating as the refereeing was and as scripted as it kind of felt, I'm not sure game 3 was going to be one anyway, right? I just, that's my ultimate takeaway of it. But I do realize that sometimes I dismiss some of these calls. I don't want that to be the conversation, right? I don't, but it is what it is with this game 3. So let's talk about the actual adjustments made from the Lakers and Darvin Ham. The first one was put Austin Reeves on Steph Curry and Vanderbilt on Draymond Green, understanding now we're just going to switch Vando onto Steph. That's kind of what we wanted to do anyway, right? They're like getting out ahead of the switch. They put AD on JaMychal Green, who started again, right? And so now the primary pick and roll partners for Steph both are switched into guys that he kind of wants to avoid. Now, I think it surprised the Warriors initially, but I don't want to give it too much credit. I just think there were too many, what do you call it, plaxicos, right? They shot themselves in the foot. There was too many mistakes with that. The other adjustment was Lonnie Walker. I had brought it up previously as a potential adjustment for the Lakers, and he played in place of Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt didn't play that many minutes, and in place of Troy Brown Jr. a little bit, right? They went to essentially a 3-guard lineup, and they would play whether it was Rui and AD or AD and LeBron, right? And then they had the 3 guards out there, and Lonnie Walker, solid athlete, solid defender, right? I wouldn't call him a, he's not someone you're going to pick on defensively, right? And then his ability to shoot the 3 at 36% on the season, it allowed them to play, I thought, 5 out more, where Vanderbilt in that corner, he's not giving them spacing, right? The Warriors have been daring him to shoot that shot all season long, and it's clogged the paint up. And so putting Lonnie Walker in there, I don't think you're losing too much defensively if you're the Lakers. Maybe on the glass, there's some things that Vando does, right? But it spreads the floor out for them offensively. And I think the counter moving forward for the Warriors is, listen, okay, fine, they're going to try to involve AD in all these switches, or Vando, right, and make the pick and roll game hard. Fine, pick on LeBron. LeBron, Rui Hachimura, and D'Lo are the marks. Those are the 3 marks the Warriors need to involve in the screen action. And LeBron, for the first 3 games of this series, has been kind of hiding out on Wiggins in the corner, or it's Moody in the corner. So those guys are going to have to be up to the task of setting the screens and operating in the pick and roll, even if they're not familiar with it, right? Wiggins in particular, right? It started last playoff run where we realized all of a sudden Steve Kerr's using him as a power forward. He's rebounding like a power forward. He's a stretch 4 for a big part of last year's championship run. Now, the next element of him being able to play the stretch 4 in the power forward position is being the roll man, being the pick and roll guy, because he would be a hell of a vertical spacer rolling down. We know he can pick and pop, but more importantly, I think it puts LeBron up into the pick and roll action, and AD and Vando can be off doing something else. I think that could be the counter for what we saw from Darvin Ham defensively in game 3. So I think it was about, when did the wheels come off? The wheels came off about midway through the third quarter, right? The technicals, and it was ugly to watch. It was hard to watch, right? And that, to me, was the point where I tweeted out, hey, now's the time to give Kuminga a shot, because the game is, to me, it felt like it had got away from them already. And so there wasn't as much pressure for him to come in and perform. But at the same time, you could kind of get a feel for what he looked like in some of these matchups. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen until, later in the fourth quarter when it was complete garbage time and the Lakers didn't have their guys on the floor. But I bring that up to say, okay, JaMychal gave us the surprise game 2, right? Game 3, you understood he was going to start again, and that shot wasn't the same, in part because the Lakers were coming out on it, right? I talked about how he likes a big window to let go that slow release. He no longer had that window. AD, those guys were coming out on that 3, and so I think he was 0 of 3, and he was far less effective. And so at what point do you assume that Kerr's just going to go back to Loon in the starting 5 and take that spacing away that JaMychal had created? I guess the question with that is Loon coming off, again, his worst game of the playoffs. So I bring it back to Jonathan Kuminga. At what point here does Kuminga get the JaMychal opportunity to get that role and perhaps knock a couple threes down, get downhill, be an athlete, get out in transition and make some plays? Are we going to see that opportunity arise? I'm not holding my breath. I'm just bringing it up here into this game 4 Monday where JaMychal has struggled and Looney has struggled. I guess the other point would be if Lonnie Walker is going to play the rest of this series and they're going to go to more 3-guard lineups, I think you could certainly play more Moses Moody, because asking him to guard Rui Hachimura is a tough ask. But again, if they're going to size down and play with 3 guards, I don't see why they can't play more Moody. But if Rui is out there, again, you got to attack Rui. You got to attack Rui and LeBron. Can't let LeBron rest. But all in all, listen, like I said, as frustrating as the refereeing was, I'm not sure we were going to pull that one out anyway. There was just a lack of execution, a lack of juice, and just the natural hunger of the Lakers coming off being blown out. And we know how these series seesaw, whether it's the refereeing or just the momentum and desperateness of the team. And so game 4 was always the game for Golden State to circle and say, hey, let's come back and steal home court. I imagine the refs are going to overcorrect, or the whistle should look different. Fingers crossed for game 4. Even though it's in Los Angeles, I think that there's going to be a lot of scrutiny with the refereeing in this game in the next 24 hours leading into this game 4. I don't think they got a campaign for it. It's just going to look different, right? Because there is a world where those block charge calls go the other way and momentum goes completely the other way. I understand that, but let's not dwell on that. But again, I don't feel too bad of where the Warriors sit right now. You imagine you're going to get a better performance from Clay. You're going to get a better performance from Looney. One of these role players has to step up, right? And if Wiggins can build off the game he quietly had in game 3, I like our chances of stealing home court back in this game 4. Just let him play. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.